Okay guys, we are ready. I will now hand it over to our next runner, which is Lonne, and he will show us some Road Rash. So let's get hyped for this.
I think I'm going live soon. Probably. Okay, I'm live. Hello, everyone. Let me know when to start the timer. All right. So the timer will start when I select the track. Real quick, I'm just gonna reset it. So we're just going to load into the track and then I'm just going to reset it real quick. Oh, I think I broke the game doing that. I did. Yeah, so we're just going to reset the game real quick. Because I was just doing some practice and won the track and it counts as qualified. So the goal of this is we have to complete all 5 of these tracks in first, second or third place in order to complete the level. And so what we're doing here is we're just completing the first level. Timer is going to start when I select this first track, which we're going to do the city. And so the timer is going to start in 3, 2, 1, go. So this game is a motorbike combat game developed by Electronic Arts in, I believe, 95. Originally released for the Panasonic 3DO interactive multiplayer. Which none of you probably remember because it flopped really hard. Then it was ported to the PlayStation, the Sega Saturn, and the PC. Yeah, this is quite a simple game. It's a bike combat game where you just race from the cops and other racers, and you get to punch them and all that. It's quite fun. Yeah, so what we're doing here is just level 1. There's 5 levels in this game, and each of them have varying length and difficulty. So this is the easiest difficulty with the shortest tracks, whereas level 5 is the hardest with the longest tracks in the game. With more cops, and everyone's just sort of a bit more brutal than they are on level 1. So sort of our goal is to just sort of get in 3rd place at least, because we need at least 3rd place to qualify for each track, and we're essentially gonna just sort of try and keep ahead of them. If they get close to us, we're gonna use our fists and we're gonna punch them in the face, or we can kick them. Then we have 3 attacks in the game. We have our standard punch, which is just a punch, really. There's nothing special about it. We have a kick, which we can use to push other bikes across the track. So say someone gets too close to us, we can push them and they could like hit a wall or something and fall off their bike, which would slow them down. And then we have a backhand attack. I don't know what this does, to be completely honest with you, because you have to charge it, you have to hold down the attack button and then let go before you can actually use it, so I don't really use it. I just stick with the punches. You also have a few melee weapons, which unfortunately I won't be able to show off because we don't start off with a melee weapon. There's only a few riders that have them, but we can steal them. If I recall correctly, we just punch while they're swinging at us and we just steal the melee weapon off them. And those melee weapons are a baseball bat and a chain, like a steel chain, and they do more damage. They replace your punch and they do more damage, so they're quite effective. But we don't get to start off with them in this mode. But it'll show you to. Oh, well, that cop just fell off his bike, and that's the sort of the biggest hazard when playing this game, both sort of in a like a speedrun sense or casually, is you don't want to fall off your bike. because you have to run back to your bike. You don't just respawn on the bike. You have to get back on it, and you have to run towards it, and you can get knocked over, and you can get sent, flying away from your bike, and it's just a huge time loss, sort of getting on the bike, and the whole you can get hit by everyone else while you're off the bike. But you can, you fall off quite easily. Sometimes you just don't fall off the bike at all. Sometimes you'll hit a wall and you won't fall off the bike, and other times you'll hit a rock or something and you'll just get sent flying away. But that was the first track done, the city. Now we're on another track, which is sort of in the countryside. And you'll see this rider in front of us, Pearl, has I believe that's a chain whip, so we'd want to try and avoid them because they could do more damage to us. And we have 2 sort of health bars in this game. That was a rider falling off his bike. But we sort of have 2 health bars in this game, and they're both quite important, but one of them's more important than the other. The bike, or the health bar on our left, where my name is, that's my rider's health, and if that gets to 0, I fall off my bike. Same with the health bar on the right, that's for the closest rider to me, and then it also shows their delta, so how close they are from me, and if they're ahead or behind me. So as you can see, Sydney is 0.03 seconds in front of us. I believe that's the one in the yellow. And if we were to attack them, they would lose their health, and it would be and if their health bar gets 0, they also fall off the bike. And then the health bar in the middle above my gear, that's my bike health, and if that gets to 0, which is I've never had personally happen, but if it gets to 0, then I believe you wreck, and the race is already instantly over. And you have to start all over again. And as I showed at the beginning, when I loaded into the race and immediately quit out, that counts as a wreck. And if we wreck or get busted by the police, which happens if we fall off our bike and a police bike stops beside us, that gets us busted. And if we get busted, then we essentially we lose all of our qualifications, so we have to start again. So for marathon purposes, if that does happen, we're just going to ignore it and keep going. But obviously in a run, that would just be it over. So we're currently in first just now, so we just have to avoid the traffic. The traffic is our biggest sort of road hazard, apart from the debris on the side of the track. It would be the other vehicles, especially oncoming traffic, because they're not as easy to dodge, especially if you don't see them coming. And I did a lot of explaining actually, but so this is the thrash mode, which is sort of like a quick play mode, where we're just given a bike and we just go. Yeah, and I believe you get a faster and faster bike in each level, I think. I never really did any sort of testing or research into any of that kind of stuff. That's the second track done. We just run over that pedestrian because, of course, we can. There's nothing stopping us from running over the pedestrian. So we're in thrash mode just now, which is our sort of quick play mode. There's also a mode called Big Head, or I think it's Big Head or something, which is a career mode. And that's sort of like your traditional career mode. You start from the bottom, you do races, you get money, you go up the levels, and you get faster bikes. And you also have different characters, and you can sort of pick one of these sort of other riders. They all have like a different starting bike, starting cash, and I believe 1 or 2 of them. That bike just brake checked me. And I believe 1 or 2 of the riders has a melee weapon. Like I know Axel in the career mode starts with I believe chain whip, which is quite fun. But he starts off with a pretty slow bike and like no cash, pretty much. But here it's just literally just go in and race. And I believe actually exclusive to this version of the game was network multiplayer. I don't know if it's just LAN or if it's over the internet. But we just reduced that guy's health bar to 0, and he fell off his bike, as you saw. Which means he has to get back on his bike, and he's gonna probably end up last now. Yeah, and this is so this is the only version of the game that has multiplayer, I believe. I don't think the console versions have local multiplayer, but this one has at least over LAN, or maybe you know, like DSL. Because this is a game from the 90s. He just kicked us into the wall and we fell off our bike. We can actually control our character during this, but we don't really need to since they auto run back to the bike. So we lost a couple places, so we're gonna have to go and get them back, unfortunately. That's, you know, quite an unfortunate accident. But it's we'll be fine. We just have to go and, you know, get revenge on whoever knocked us off our bike. I don't remember who knocked us off our bike, but we'll go and find them and we'll give them a good old, you know, a good old lesson. But the combat, especially in a speedrun sense, isn't necessary. It's just quite fun. You know, it's because we're not exactly going to be slower if we unless we actually slow our bike down to go and punch these people. So I do like to just sort of, as we go past them, just give them a good old punch or two. We just kick them. I think they fell off their bike, but they definitely got put off the track, which sort of puts them at a bit of a disadvantage now. This track is also a shortcut. Or no, not a shortcut. It has an alternate path, which I don't think there's a difference between them. It's just sort of preference. I usually just take the left one because that's just usually how I end up getting there. Yeah, and I believe one of the other tracks has this. I believe the next track we're gonna do has a split path, or the final track. I don't remember. But anyway, yeah. So. And in fact, also, when I mentioned the platforms, this game was actually also not only just released on 3DO, PlayStation, Saturn, and PC, it was also released on the Sega CD. And technically, they're all the same games. Technically, although the Sega CD version, or I should say Mega CD, since this is UKSG, the gameplay is more like the Mega Drive Road Rash games, but it still has the FMVs that are in this game, which I unfortunately have disabled. I have disabled because loading's faster, and for some reason, I don't know if it's because of the game capture, but I can't actually record the FMVs because I was actually going to leave the FMVs on at the end and be like, hey, you know, we can have a look at the FMV once we've leveled up. But unfortunately, the OBS just doesn't pick up the FMVs, which is very sad considering they're a bit. I mean, they're a bit cheesy because this is in the 90s, but they're still pretty cool. But yeah, no, it was on the Sega CD version of this game. So technically, this version and the Sega CD version are the same games, but they have completely different gameplay. I've played both versions. I definitely think this version is better. But it's still, like, if all you had was a Sega CD, perfectly fine. And in this game, when I was mentioning 3DO, this was actually a exclusive title for the 3DO when it came out, because this is an Electronic Arts game. Back when EA made, you know, good games. So then this was, and since the 3DO was an EA console, it was actually released as an exclusive, and it's actually a pretty decent version. But the console and the game are quite rare these days, and I personally was having issues with 3DO emulation. But yeah, and it's a lot of talking. But yeah, there's... I just don't know what to say at this point. I've been saying a lot. I kind of said everything I wanted to say. Now I just sort of have to come up with more stuff to say. I could talk about... Yeah, no, this game is part of a series that was started off on the Mega Drive, as I mentioned earlier. Then there was... I think there was 3 games on the Mega Drive. There was a Game Gear and Game Boy version. Then there was this version, and then a couple more on the PlayStation, and then that was sort of it. That's the 4th track completed, by the way. We're now on to the last track of the game, which is probably, in my opinion, the most annoying track in the game because it's very tight. At least the beginning of it is very tight. There's not a lot of room. So this is, you know, just a 2-lane track, and it's quite tight. We have some tunnels as well. It's just not a very pleasant... at least the beginning isn't very pleasant. Yeah, I will definitely let you know when the time is. Well, it'll be when we pass the finish line, and I'll let you know when that comes up. Which will be in about 8 kilometers time. Because, you know, kilometers best measurement or something. And we're gonna... Okay, that's not good. We hit that car, but fortunately we didn't fall off the bike, which is always good. Which sort of makes it... It doesn't make the time loss as bad if we don't fall off the bike. But especially here in these tunnels, it's quite tight as well. So we kind of want to try and minimize sort of hitting things. And there is a bit of RNG to this with the tracks, or the traffic and all that. And the riders, they're also a little bit RNG as well. And if you, yeah, so yeah, we're actually just kind of quite cruising through this. Actually, at a pretty decent rate. We haven't really had too much difficulties. I'd actually say this is a pretty solid run that's happened so far. As beside that one crash earlier on, we haven't really had any issues. I've always had, especially on the PlayStation version, I always sort of had issues with the first track we did, the city. It's always seemed to be a bit of a mess for me. We're just gonna bully Mike because, I don't know, he's done something to us. There we go, we just bullied Mike off his bike. Yeah. No, but yeah, I wish I could English. Sometimes it's a bit hard. Being Scottish and all that, you know, English is a bit hard. And we've crashed. That's fine. Don't worry, guys. Everything will be okay. We just have to get to our bike. We're gonna get overtaken. Oh, never mind. Actually, that was actually really good timing. Usually they would have hit the bike and then bounce over it, but I think because I was getting on the bike, they just stopped, which was actually rather interesting. Because then that gives first place less of a lead. And here's Mike back. He's obviously wanting a bit more. He obviously, you know, didn't have wasn't fulfilled, or he obviously didn't enjoy his first beating as much as he should have. So if he comes back, we'll he's you know, he's quite close. So if he does come back, we can always give him another one. Yeah. So this is sort of the... Yeah, we're just about to... Just coming across the end. We've got about half a kilometer left. As you see in the bottom, that just shows our distance. And the finish line should actually just be straight ahead of us. So the time concludes in 3, 2... Now. I cut myself early. But that's it. That's Road Rash for the level 1 on PC. Hope everyone enjoyed it. What was our final time actually? Because that was actually a pretty decent run, I think. Like time-wise, but yeah, just to show you, now we're on level 2, and as you see, the tracks are now longer, so this one's, you know, 13.5 kilometers instead of 8. 17:48. That's actually a really good time. I believe, for me, that's that's my personal best, I believe. I don't remember, but thanks for letting me, run this game here. It was pretty fun. Shout out to the UKSG staff for, despite the technical difficulties, keeping the show going. Because I understand there's been a lot of issues with tech, and it's been a bit tough, but, at least they're still powering through it and all that. And I think we'll get moved on over to the next run, which is, Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon? Which, pretty fun game, pretty silly looking, and I hope you all enjoy it.